Hello and welcome to Mastering Microsoft Excel video series. This is video number 21, Pivot Table Part 4. In this video, we are going to talk about slicers and timeline in Pivot Table. Without much ado, let's get into the Excel screen and let's see how do we use these two things in the Pivot Table to create some interactive visualizations and interactive summarizations. So the file we are using for this particular video is the same file. We've been using it for the last 3 videos. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a pivot table for this data. So let's go ahead and start creating it. We got the pivot table. So I'm going to bring in sales, let's say product category and the bill amount. Okay, this is one of my pivot table. So I would love to see the visualization for this pivot table. So I'm going to go ahead and use a simple bar chart. So let me have the bar chart for this. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the unwanted things around to save and get the space for my visual. I'm going to have a title quickly. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say product level sales, and let's keep it over here. And let's remove the grid lines and let's add the data labels. Okay, it's too much to take it. So how do I reduce this to fit into my bars? So I'm going to just change the alignment. So I've just clicked on the data label, right click, format data label. I go to the size and alignment category, alignment, text directions. I'm going to change that to 270 degree, and with regard to the placement, I'm going to have it inside the base, and I'm going to make sure the bar size is also good enough to hold that numbers inside. So I'm going to select any one of the bar, right click on it. I'm going to format data series and reduce the gap width so the bar becomes a little wider. Now I change my values, the data label font colors to a different shade. Now this is better for us in terms of visual, but in part 5 we'll also talk about how do we manage these kind of huge numbers inside the pivot table. So what's our solution? So that is something we're going to cover up in the part 5, where we're going to talk about couple of interesting things. So do remember to follow us on the part 5. So let's come back to the track where we are. So we got the first pivot created and a visual created for it. So I'm going to create one more pivot table on the same sheet. So I'm going to go to the data sheet again. I'm going to be inside the data pivot table, but this time instead of new worksheet, I'm going to go for existing worksheet. Click inside the box, come to the sheet where I've got the pivot already, and decide a place where I want to have my second pivot table. So I click here and click OK. So I've got my second pivot table, in which I'm going to take territory wise the bill amount, and I'm going to create a chart for this one as well. So let's take the same bar chart and let's get rid of the unwanted components quickly on the chart. Okay, so here we go. We got the chart, and let's get the numbers on top of them. So let's add the data labels. This is okay. All right, so let's put the title inside quickly. Territory sales performance. All right, we have it now. Okay, let's go ahead and keep it over here. All right, so we got 2 pivot table and 2 visuals for them. So I would love to present this or filter these 2 tables and 2 visuals based on salesperson wise. Okay, so when I want to filter it, what obviously we'll be doing is we'll be dragging the salesperson and dropping it in the filter section, isn't it? But when I do that, what's the problem here is when I drag and drop it, so we got the filter here, but when I go ahead and choose the salesperson, it does change, but I need to keep selecting like this, but the second pivot will not change as per the choice. So for the second pivot also I have to go back and get this salesperson here, and whichever salesperson I've chosen here, I have to select that one also here. And it becomes too much work when I have a, let's say, 6 charts or 8 charts which are generated from multiple pivots. So how do I manage this much effectively? So let's go ahead and check it out. So I'm going to click inside the first pivot table, go to the Analyze tab on the top, and I go to the filter section, because all we are trying to do here is filtering this pivot table and the pivot chart. So under the filter group, I'm going to go ahead and choose the option slicer. So when I click slicer, it's asking me, how do you want to slice these two pivot tables by? Filter these two pivot tables by. I want to filter these two pivot tables by salesperson. I click OK. And here I got my slicer. So when I go ahead and click any salesperson right now, it's comfortably changing, but it is not changing the other pivot, the other pivot and the other pivot chart. But it's not changing the second pivot table and the pivot chart related to that, which you can observe right now. So we're going to make that happen. So I'm going to right click on the slicer, and I'm going to go for the choice report connections, and it shows me that this slicer is connected to only one pivot table. So I'm going to connect it to the second pivot table by activating the checkbox and click OK. Now the magical moment. So click, and both the pivot table and the visuals both are changing, which you can observe right now. Yeah, so let's also get these guys inside the bars. I'm going to do a couple of changes just to have a uniformity in terms of so let's say inside the base, and the alignment will be text direction 270-degree. We're gonna have the font as white. Okay, now this looks better, and that is good. All right, so slicer is interactive filtering it. And what else I can do when it comes to filtering? So there's one more filtering component called timeline. As the name itself says, timeline, it is something to deal with date related, okay, over a time, over a period. So if you have a date column, then timeline really gonna make a big deal for you. So let's go to the analyze. I'm inside the first pivot table, analyze. Just next to the slicer, I have something called insert timeline. I'm going to click on it, and it says there are 2 date columns in your data. Which one would you like to have it? I want to take billing date, and I get a horizontal structure, something like this, in which on the top right I can see the word months, which I'm going to click on it. I'm going to choose the frequency by which I want to filter these 2 pivot tables. So I want to filter these 2 by years. And when I choose the year, yes, I could observe only the first pivot is changing, whereas the second pivot is not changing. If that has to change, then we know already what we got to do, because we did that for the slicer. We're going to do the same thing for the timeline. Right click on the timeline. We're going to go for report connections, activate the second pivot table, and click OK. And there you go. So you can see right now it says in 2020 this is the performance. In 2020, what's the performance of salesperson 2? What's the performance of salesperson 4? So it is presenting for the choice. So salesperson 1 in the year 2024, we don't have any number. 2023, this is a number for the salesperson 1 in 2024. Salesperson 3, that's a number for him. So we could see how these slicer and timeline, when they are connected together, this is amazing to watch it. Yeah, so now the last action I want to show in this video, if you are a dashboard guy, then you can try this, what I'm trying to show you right now. So I can create a sheet which is completely an empty sheet, and I can select these 2 pivot charts and the slicer and the timeline, all the visual components. I'm gonna select by holding the control key. I clicked on it, cut from your control X as an X-ray, Now let's go to that sheet which we created, which is a empty sheet. I'm going to paste it over there. Now what I'm going to do is just do some kind of adjustments in the look and feel of the report. Just something like this. So look at the way I'm going to change this slicer into a horizontal pattern. I click on the slicer and I go to the slicer tab, the last tab on the top, where under the buttons group there is a option called columns. I'm going to increase that number so that the total unique items will be placed in 4 column or 5 column, whatever I choose it. So I'm going to expand this like this. I can adjust, resize it just like the picture resizing or shape resizing. Once I resize it and keep it, I drag and bring my next component, which is my timeline, and then just keep these two charts, whatever, how many charts you wanted. You just need to place them just like this, and rest of the sheets you can hide them. All right, here we go. You got your dashboard kind of a feel. Suppose if you don't want these two, these gray shaded kind of a buttons, then right click on that. There's an option called hide all field buttons. You can do that for every visual which you created from the pivot table. Now it looks like as if these are normally created charts and absolutely good to go for a dashboard presentation. Okay, now what's it? I can choose any choices here. It still works. So the rest of the two sheets where the pivot table is there, where the data is there, both are secured from the end user. You can protect by using the protect workbook option so that the person does not have the access to that particular sheets. Now you can see the power of the slicer and timeline when they come together. It gives you the option of presenting selectively, collectively, interactively. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this learning. The downloadable link for this file is available as usual, so download it. Try to create the pivots just like I did in the video and get the slicer and the timeline. Use the report connections to connect them. You can try for more pivots, let's say 4 or 6 or 10 as well, and try to connect them and watch the way the charts are changing, the numbers are changing, and that gives you a startup or heads up to think about a dashboard creation for your data. And we'll meet again in the last part of the pivot table, which is part 5. Until then, take care of yourself. Signing off, Hariharan.